Hey everybody, so I just wanted to jump on here and leave my review for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Now, when I heard that Pinocchio was being reimagined yet again, because there were two Pinocchios that came out last year, one by Robert Zemeckis and one by Guillermo, and I did not happen to see Robert Zemeckis' version, mostly because at that point I just thought we'd seen Pinocchio done over and over, and I just kept thinking to myself, are we ever going to get something different? But I was intrigued to see Guillermo del Toro's, mostly because this was done in stop motion animation. And Guillermo del Toro is one of those directors that I think just has a really beautiful vision. A lot of the imagery in his works are just done so exquisitely. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of the movie, I typically love what he's done with it regardless because of how visually stunning he makes those movies look. So when I saw that he wanted to retell Pinocchio with the very much like the darker version of it, because, with Disney and the things that we've seen with Pinocchio, they're a lot more lighthearted and friendly. Of course, in those movies, there are some dark elements, but not as heavy as the ones that he portrays here in this version. And with the stop motion, I thought the animation looked really fun. And I was very just excited to see how he was going to tell a story told through that animation. Now, this version of Pinocchio, like I had mentioned, is a lot darker. It's based on the original source material. And we, of course, if you're not familiar with the story, which I'd be surprised by this point if you were not familiar, but in case you're not, it is about Geppetto, a woodcarver who is longing to have, a child of his own. And that's the version I think we usually got in the Disney versions. But in this one, we actually come to find that Geppetto is a grieving man who had lost his son in an accident. And so now, to anything to fill the void, he is basically drinking himself to death, and he really just wants to have that connection with his son again, even though his son is no longer present. And so he ends up, of course, carving away, making his own version of what his son could be. And unbeknownst to him, Pinocchio comes to life. And so the relationship that, ensues from that moment is one that's very interesting. It's done in such a really musical way. This movie is full of original music and it's very fun, but it's also done in a very comedic and then also in a grieving way. Like, we just kind of see this emotional aspect of this man who, even though he's happy that he has this wooden boy to basically stand in proxy for his deceased son, there's still something missing. He still longs and misses his boy who had passed away. So the movie is very emotional. I didn't expect to be that connected to it in a way that I never felt before with Pinocchio, because originally I've always just thought Pinocchio was fun and entertaining. This one being both of those, but also gut-wrenching. Like, I couldn't stop feeling a type of way about how they were making us feel. And in the Disney version, or in certain aspects of what we've seen, he goes to a carnival with some really, mischievous boys. And this one, he goes to war and is fighting with other young men. So it's the movie really just goes for it and is very dark and just doesn't hold anything back. And what I like that Guillermo did here is that he just provided it in such a loving way. You could see the efforts that he was making. And I don't mean that in a bad way, that you could see the efforts, but I just mean you could tell, is what I meant to say, that he just really had a passion to tell this story in the way that he knew how to do it. He wanted to really tell it from that point of view that is both heart-wrenching, but also heartwarming. And that's something that I could really appreciate about his vision and his version of this story that has been told, again, numerous times. So I was very surprised at how well done this was. I have to just, hats off to him and his co-director for being able to bring this story to a different kind of life, giving it a different type of air to breathe into it. It was really well done. I thought the animation was lovely. I thought the musical aspect of it was fun. And I'm happy to see that Pinocchio was now retold in a version that, at least for me anyway, hadn't been seen before. So really some credible work here. It's not a movie that I think is going to be the best thing that I've ever seen, but it is something very special and something that I definitely recommend you check out if you are someone who loves animation, somebody who loves Guillermo del Toro, and I guess if you really love the story of Pinocchio, you put those three together, then you're most likely going to really enjoy this film. Now, again, if you've seen the movie, I'd love to know what you thought about it. Leave a comment down below and let's talk about it. I'd be curious to know your thoughts, but it is a movie that I'm recommending that you check out because there are a lot of wonderful elements and moments to this film that I wasn't expecting, but really blew me away.